In our previous video, we saw just how different this challenge went in Spyro the Dragon Reignited compared to the PS1 version. The thing is, all 3 games in the Reignited trilogy all run on the same engine, so all the tricks and glitches that we showed in that video will still work in Spyro 2 Reignited Ripto's Rage. So let's do it all over again. Can you beat Spyro 2 Reignited without gliding? Let's find out. Here are the rules. But first I just gotta say that after seeing some strange things that can happen in this game, it really makes me wonder how it's all held together behind the scenes, which is why it's perfect that the sponsor for this video, Boot.dev, could help explain exactly that. If you don't know, Boot.dev is an online learning tool for back-end developers, and I wish I knew about them years ago. I used to work alongside developers myself, and trying to learn from them was tiresome, which is a shame because I knew exactly how fun coding could be. Well, Boot.dev knows this all too well. They've made sure that learning code is never boring, as their courses feel like a rewarding role-playing game. So while you're learning back-end web development in Python and Go programming languages, you also get a nice sense of accomplishment as you earn experience points, level up, unlock achievements, and even boost your ranking on a global leaderboard. It's designed to get you stuck into writing your own code and finishing projects as you go. Plus, your newfound coding knowledge in game development might help you understand how things like this can happen in your favourite video games. Also, Boot.dev knows that times are tough. Not everyone wants to commit to a membership right away. That's why all Boot.dev content is free to read and watch in guest mode, and paid memberships unlock AI assistance and all the RPG aspects. Speaking of tough times, how's this for a deal? If you click the link in our description and use our code NG+, you will get 25% off your first month, or 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. That's equivalent to 3 months for free. So take advantage of that deal with my link in the description and the code NG+. And maybe you can find out how exploits like this are even possible. Thank you, Boot.dev, for sponsoring this video. Back to the rules. Rule number 1, we cannot use Spyro's wings for anything. This includes both gliding and flying. Rule number 2, glitches are fine, just no hacking. And finally, rule number 3, once we defeat the final boss, Ripto, we win! Before we start, I do recommend watching our Spyro 1 Reignited glideless video before watching this one if you haven't already, as this is essentially its sequel video. As usual with all our Spyro videos, we will be attempting the highest possible completion percentage to find out what the absolute limit of this challenge is. We are performing this run on the latest patch of the PS4 version of the game, but if another platform is required at any part of the run, we'll make sure to mention it. And yes, Spyro glides when entering portals and during load screens, so those don't count, since we have no control over that. Just like last time, we will be using the 99 lives cheat code just to save time. The format of this video will be the same as the Spyro 1 video as well. We will complete as much as we can without glitches and only resort to them when absolutely necessary. We start off in Glimmer, and something different compared to the previous game is that enemies no longer drop gems upon defeating them. Instead, killing a certain number of enemies in each level will activate a power-up somewhere in that level. So killing every single enemy is no longer required for maximum percentage. If you've seen our glideless video on the original Spyro 2, you may remember an exploit that we took advantage of a lot. The double jump. The unintended double jump that was exclusive to Spyro 2 on the PS1 is no longer possible in Reignited. When we enter the cave, we see a ladder, but Spyro can't climb ladders until he learns how, so we'll have to return to any ladders that we see later. We pay money bags to extend this bridge over this pit, and that brings us to the last area of the level. Whenever we reach the end of a level in this game, an NPC gives us a talisman, and all talismans are required to beat this game. So unlike Spyro 1, we must reach the end of every level in Spyro 2. Instead of rescuing dragons like in the previous game, this time we need to complete missions within the levels to earn orbs. Unfortunately, there's a fair amount we can't do in Glimmer. We can't get all the gems, and we can't get any of the 3 orbs here either. 2 of the orbs are rewards for flaming all the gem lamps, both outside and inside the cave, but we can't reach them all from the ground. It's intended that we use a temporary flight power-up to reach all the gem lamps, but of course that breaks our main rule. On the PS1, we were able to shoot our flame during a double jump to just hit each gem lamp from the ground without needing the flight power-up. However, inside the cave, we can just land on this torch and then jump over to this rock. That is a lot harder than it looks. When we land on the torch, we charge forward for half a second so that we can charge jump again for maximum distance. This allows us to jump over here for some more gems on the higher ledge inside the cave. I wondered if we could light all the gem lamps inside the cave without the flight power up now that we're up here, and whereas we can reach a few more gem lamps, we will never be able to reach the yellow gem lamp above the cave entrance. It's simply too high up, and we can't even stand on top of this giant gem since Spyro just slides right off. The third orb requires us to spit rocks at a bunch of lizards, but after hitting the first lizard, we need to follow this NPC to get the rock for the second lizard, but he rides this whirlwind to the upper floor. Just like in our Spyro 1 Reignited video, we are banning whirlwinds, if for no other reason than consistency. Plus, I feel it makes the challenge more interesting this way. If we can't follow the NPC, we can't get another rock, and unlike the original Spyro 2, these lizards seem to be immune to any of our other attacks. That leaves Glimmer on 54% completion. We exit Glimmer to enter the first home world, Summer Forest. We see a pool of water to the left, but Spyro can't swim yet until he learns how. We can charge jump over this broken bridge, and over here Hunter gives us a tutorial on gliding. If we can follow Hunter across these gaps, he rewards us with an orb, and with our best charge jumps, we can clear the first gap just fine. The next gap is a lot more difficult, but we can take advantage of a returning feature from Spyro 1 Reignited, Coyote Time. When Spyro charges over an edge, he stays suspended in mid-air for about half a second, and he can still jump during this time. This means that if we time the jump as late as possible during Coyote Time, we can maximize our jump distance as much as possible. And with that, after a few attempts, we can just make it across this gap. Although the fourth and final gap is a lost cause. It's far too wide, so we'll just have to miss out on that orb, as well as the 2 gems over there. Back on the ground, we find Moneybags hanging around, and he wants to charge us 500 gems to teach us how to swim. We can't make any more progress in the home world without swimming, but since we already paid him 100 gems in Glimmer, we don't have enough. And whereas we could just enter a new level to collect more gems, there is another way to get over this water. This is yet another returning glitch from Spyro 1, where we both exit and enter a level at the same time. Just note, the only reason we're using this glitch at this point is because this is the only time this particular glitch can be used. If we pause the game on the same frame that we touch a portal, the game thinks we're already in that level. If we then choose to exit that level, the game tries to enter and exit the level at the same time. We already showed the odd effects this can have on the game in Spyro 1 Reignited, but this glitch actually doesn't work in the same way in Spyro 2's normal levels. This is due to the fact that almost every level in Spyro 2 has an intro cutscene when we enter them. This cutscene interferes with the glitch and usually results in a softlock. However, there is one exception, Glimmer. Since this is the first level of the game, it does not have an opening cutscene. This is also why we're using this glitch now instead of later, as what we're using it for is unique to this moment. We exit Glimmer on the same frame that we touch its portal, and in the game's confusion, it spawns Spyro to the default point in Summer Forest. And a homeworld's default point is always right outside its speedway, so we end up outside of Ocean Speedway. We haven't even unlocked Ocean Speedway yet, but we're still here. This portal is beyond that body of water that we couldn't swim through, and now we can reach a bunch more gems in Summer Forest. We still can't reach the other balcony without gliding, and we still can't climb ladders yet either, so we can't get everything here, but we still have over 500 gems. To get back to Moneybags, we can just fast travel to Glimmer and then exit Glimmer again, and we'll be back at the start of Summer Forest. We could have just entered a random level to grab the gems we needed, but I thought that was more interesting. We purchased the ability to swim from Moneybags, and we can grab a bunch more gems underwater. We can also reach an orb by swimming through an underwater tunnel near the Glimmer portal. We will need to leave Summer Forest on 58% completion for now. We'll quickly mention the speedways while we're here though. They work in the same way as flight levels in Spyro 1. As soon as we load into one, we start off flying right away. And even if we charge out of the air as soon as we can, we usually always hit the water and fail. Each speedway is worth a total of 400 gems, and there is also one orb in each speedway that you can get after you've beaten the speedway. There are 4 speedways in the game, so it looks like that's 1,600 gems and 4 orbs that we just can't get in this run. We enter the next level, Idle Springs. Most of this level is simple. It starts off with everything at ground level, and we can also swim to reach the first of 3 minigames. We need to turn all these blocks green by jumping jumping on them, and the easy solution is to start with this one and then jump on the 4 corner blocks, going clockwise. The other 2 puzzles can be reached without issue, so that's an easy orb. Getting the talisman is also not an issue. The latter half of the level requires platforming over these gaps, and it looks like charge jumps are just enough to clear them all, until we reach this one. With optimal use of coyote time, we still couldn't quite get over there, but it's so close. Instead, we can fall into this section with the supercharged track, and charge through all 6 wooden carvings for another orb. This seems to be all we can do in Idle Springs with our limitations. On the PS1 version, we used an awkward collision on top of this box to get a proxy up to the high window ledge. This allowed us to reach the gems that we couldn't charge jump to, but that proxy won't work this time as the box can just be stood on in Reignited. Instead, we have a different plan to reach the remaining gems. We can use the supercharge power up to our advantage. The supercharge only ends if we stop charging or bump into something. So if we can get out of this area with the supercharge, we can use it in the rest of the level. Easier said than done though. It's very awkward to get the supercharge up these steps. We found the best method to make this work though. We stand on this rock and we jump on top of one of the power-up spires. They have small flat surfaces on top so we can land on it, and this is close enough to activate the supercharge power-up. It's very tricky to get up all these steps with supercharge without either bonking into the wall or falling all the way down, but it is possible. The first time I pulled it off, I went right in between these 2 baskets without hitting either of them. Thankfully, a normal charge jump during coyote time is just enough to reach these baskets from this side. We charge jump back over again to grab the remaining gems up here. The final gems of the level are inside a metal chest on top of a rock in the middle of the water down below. We can't quite see it as it's behind the giant wooden statue, and the only way to break it is to light the fuse on this rocket. The issue is, some of the gems stay on top of the rock after the chest breaks, and it's intended that we glide down to the rock from here to grab them. The rock is too high to reach from below after all. However, there is something we can do. The rockets in Spyro 2 are bigger than the rockets in Spyro 1, so much so that Spyro can actually stand on top of this rocket. If we light the fuse and then quickly stand on it before it ignites, we can ride the rocket to the rock. But all this depends on if Spyro can keep his balance, and if we can nail the landing on the relatively small rock, because we only get 1 try at this. However, we nailed the landing first try. That was tense. But with that, we have beaten Idle Springs 100%. We move on to the next level, Colossus, and this one is one of the easiest levels in the whole run. There is a bit of platforming, but it can be done with these spring jump power-ups. Using those, there is nowhere in this level we can't reach. The only gap that it's intended that we glide over is this one inside, but a charge jump is more than enough to clear it. The ice hockey minigame can be beaten as normal as well, and this level pretty much went exactly as it did on the PS1 version, which means we have 100% completion here. The next level is Hurricos, and this level is like Idle Springs in that most of the level takes place at ground level. It's when we get close to the end of the level that we need to start platforming over some gaps, but before that we complete everyone's favourite mission for an orb by defeating these 10 purple enemies. Halfway through the level we find a supercharged power-up and we can use it to break the wooden turbines. This is so we can hit the buttons behind them, which slows down the large turbines. It's now intended that we platform over the roofs and turbines, and we don't even need to glide to make it to the NPC up here for another orb. Unfortunately, we can't make it any further as the next 2 turbines are much too far away. On the PS1, we could skip these turbines completely with a double jump, but no such option this time. The only way we're going to make it over to these turbines is if we have supercharge, but since the power-up is on the ground, it's not easy. Firstly, we can take this path towards the level's end to jump around the gear grinder factory. Hitting the button over there gives us another orb. Now to get those last few gems on the other side of those turbines. This might have been one of the most difficult supercharge routes I've ever done. This time we want to supercharge towards the beginning of the level and jump over to the gear grinder factory from this side. The idea is to jump beyond the factory and jump around the platforms beyond it. This skips some of the awkward steps and one of the earlier turbines. We still need to make it over several moving platforms though, as well as nail each jump perfectly. We noticed that we get more jump height if we jump during coyote time, and in some parts that was required. But when it all comes together, the perfect supercharge route that loops the whole level over moving platforms and moving turbines looks like like this. And then we completely missed all the gems. It turns out Sparks won't grab any gems unless Spyro's feet are on the ground first, no matter how close we are to them. It's not like this is his only job or anything, so we had no choice but to practice this route over and over until we can touch the ground next to the gems so Sparks will actually grab them. And finally, that's 100% completion in Hurricos. That brings us to Sunny Beach, and this level is almost as easy as Colossus. Half the level is spent in the water, and the only wide gap is right near the start, but a charge jump clears it just fine. The rest of the level can be played casually as there isn't really any more platforming. The only reason we can't 100% this level yet is because there are 2 ladders. Once we learn how to climb ladders, we'll come back, but for now, we leave this level on 71% completion. Now we get to play my least favourite level, Aquaria Towers. The only good thing about this level is that it's almost entirely underwater, so in a glideless challenge, nothing really changes. We need to hit those easy to reach buttons to fill the level with water, so everything can be played as normal. So I'll just fill time by telling you why I hate this level. On the PS1, if you aggro one of these sharks and then jump out of the water, they can swim through the level itself to insta-kill you. 11-year-old me still has not gotten over that trauma. That's 100% completion in Aquaria Towers, now to never return. We can now face the first boss, Crush. Bosses in this game are in their own arenas now rather than being a part of the levels themselves. There's no gliding required to beat Crush though, so defeating him unlocks the game's second homeworld, Autumn Plains. The first thing to do once we're here is to learn how to climb ladders from money bags. We can now return to all the ladders we had to skip. This helps us get a few more gems and one more orb in Summer Forest, which bumps up this level to 74% completion. In Glimmer we can climb the one and only ladder for a handful of gems that boost our completion percentage from 54 to 56. We can return to both the ladders in Sunny Beach, which gets us a few more gems and the last orb for 100% completion there. Back in Autumn Plains we can get a lot of the gems, but we still can't get them all, and we can't reach either of the 2 orbs. One of the orbs is reached by going up on top of the wall, and the best way up there is either gliding or using a whirlwind. There's another whirlwind further into the level behind this destructible wall that would have taken us to the roof and eventually another orb, but of course we can't use that either. We also can't reach this island in the distance, but the portal over there is Icy Speedway, so we likely can't play that level anyway. This only gives us 19% completion Autumn Plains, so let's move on to the next level instead, Crystal Glacier. This is another level without a lot of platforming. A lot of this level can be done as normal. When we pay money bags to create this snake bridge, we want to cross it before falling down to the floor below, because the only way back up is a whirlwind. After crossing the bridge, we bring the NPC his pet wolf back and get the talisman. We then return to the bridge and fall down to the bottom floor. Here we run into the same problem we faced on the PS1. We need to kill all 18 of these Draclets before any of them can respawn, but some of them are hanging above this pink goo. It's intended that we use a flight power-up to reach them all, so we have no hope right now. However, we can grab the last few gems of the level down here. That's 80% completion in Crystal Glacier. It's now time for my favourite level in Spyro 2, Skelos Badlands. It's a shame then that we won't be spending too much time here. We can take out all the dinos for a couple of orbs without issue, and any gap that we find ourselves having to cross can be charge jumped over. I will say though, it seems more difficult to get the chain reaction kills in Reignited. Hitting this fire enemy would have made his head explode, which then would have killed the lizard behind him. It didn't happen here. As long as we have the invulnerability power up, we can charge jump into the lava to take out this lizard. These bone platforms are generously close together at first. I thought the end of the level might be a challenge. We need to reach this part of the rock that looks like it's too far away, but then we found out that you can just stand here on this small part to get around. The purple gem is just a charge jump away too. This means that we can get 100% completion in the Skelos Badlands. And it wasn't very hard at all. The next level is Breeze Harbor, and this level is a problem. Right away we're supposed to take out these 2 bucket enemies and light the fire to turn on a whirlwind. This whirlwind is the only way to progress the level. There's no other intended way whatsoever. Even if we hold the charge button down as we ride the whirlwind to avoid the glide, we still don't make it over to the upper ledge. Plus, we can clearly still see Spyro using his wings for about half a second anyway. On the PS1, we were able to use a double jump to get on top of the pipe and then another double jump to get on top of the ledge that we're trying to reach. We can still reach this part of the pipe in Reignited, but we have no chance of making any more progress from here. That leaves Breeze Harbor on just 1% completion. completion. We head over to the level on the other side of the conflict, Zephyr. When we get partway through the level, we need to make a choice. We either stay on the top level or we can jump down to the lower level. We won't jump down yet, because if we do, the only way back up again is to ride a whirlwind. We platform our way to the end of the level first for the talisman, and then we can jump down to the lower level. We can herd all the cowlicks for 2 orbs. Some of the cowlicks are more awkward to get to, but they can be herded without gliding. Any gap can be charge jumped over, and there's a super flame power up that we can use to launch the cowlicks up to the high ledges. After that, we run into 2 problems. The first one is the question mark jar near the super flame power up. Breaking this will make it teleport to its next spot in the level, which happens to be back up on the top floor. As we said, the only intended way back up there is to ride a whirlwind, so we can't seem to get the gems from that jar. The second problem is when we try to reach Juliet. We need to spit seeds onto the right spots to grow beanstalks, which create platforms for us. This goes well until we reach this ledge, as the next ledge is way too far to reach without gliding. If we could make it over there, we would be able to earn 2 more orbs. If only there was a solution to both of these problems. Oh wait, there is. We head back to where the super flame power-up was. That power-up isn't what we're here for though. We're here for the nearby ladder. There is a slight oversight in Reignited Trilogy, and it's to do with the ladders. If you climb to the very top and then just tap the jump button with the left stick in the neutral position, Spyro will automatically grab onto the wall above as if the ladder extended upwards. As long as the wall remains flat and there's no ceiling above us, we can keep doing this until we can get on top of the wall. This trick works on some other ladders, but very few of them have a flat wall that extends upwards above the ladder, so it's lucky that there's one here. In fact, the ladder in Sunny Beach defies all logic and just lets you get this high. From here, it's possible to charge jump down to the red gem on this rock. Then we climb back up again, and now we need to travel along this cliff, all the way to the other side, as it eventually leads us back to the upper floor. This is easier said than done though. The collision up here does not match the environment at all, so a lot of this was trial and error. We fell down no end of times, but eventually we were able to make it all the way around to the end and to the question mark jar that was waiting for us. From here we can reach the jar every time it spawns and break it at the end for its gems. We head back to the ladder and use it to get back on top of the cliff. This time, when we're about halfway along the path that we took last time, we can charge jump from here towards the void and just land on the seam on the other side of the level. This is close to the path that we used when trying to reach Juliet. We just need to make our way along the invisible collision until we can reach the ledge that we couldn't reach before. Now we can carry on this way and get the orb from the professor, as well as getting 100% of the gems and get the final orb after reaching Juliet. That is 100% completion in Zephyr. Next we go to the Shady Oasis, and the main objective is to hit all the trees in the level to knock down the fruit. These trees are a little bit more difficult to reach each time, but none of them are too hard to reach without gliding. Once we reach the end of the level, we break the question mark jar and we can drop down to the large platform below. There's a rocket down here that destroys the metal chest near the start of the level. It's a bit more awkward not being able to glide, but we can chase down all the lamp thieves. We can also reach every spot that the question mark jar spawns. The only things we can't do here yet is earn the last orb or grab the last of the few gems, since we need the Headbash ability in order to do both of those things. That is 70% completion in the Shady Oasis. We head to Scorch next, and this level is very light on the platforming. None of the orbs require any platforming at all. One of them is earned by helping Hunter catch monkeys, and the other is earned by chasing down Bob 3 times. The problem is getting all the gems. We're supposed to use a whirlwind from under this bridge to reach a bunch of gems, but we can see the other side of that ledge from the very start of the level. It's supposed to be out of reach, but we are ridiculously close to reaching that ledge from here. We can't quite jump high enough. However, there is a way. If we position Spyro like this with his back to the ledge, we can jump backwards towards the ledge and then charge into this wall to bonk backwards. Bonking the wall gives us a slight bit of extra height, and this means that we can just make it onto this ledge with the perfect jump and the perfectly timed bonk. With that, we can get all the gems up here, which is 100% completion in Scorch. We're doing Fracture Hills next, another level that's light on the platforming. This level level is built more around being able to supercharge through it, which is how we're going to get one of the orbs near the end, and how we're going to break the metal chest in the level. Everywhere can be reached with charge jumps or normal jumps, but there are 2 orbs we won't be getting yet. We could get one of those 2 orbs now if we wanted to, we just have to protect the alchemist from the earth shakers, but we can't get the second of those 2 orbs until we learn the Headbash ability. If we escort the alchemist now, we'll only have to redo the escort mission when we return, so we'll leave those 2 orbs for now. That's 70% completion in Fracture Hills. The last level of the second homeworld is Magma Cone, and this level wasn't easy. There are a lot of ladders in this level, and the first challenge is reaching a ladder that we're supposed to glide to. The ladder glitch we used in Zephyr does not work anywhere near as well this time. This is the highest we can get on this ladder. It's actually possible to use coyote time from the nearest ledge to just reach the bottom of that ladder with a charge jump. Now we can beat Hunter at his own game twice by collecting more crystals than he does. But in an act of pure sportsmanship, Hunter decided to completely throw the game for the greater good. Seriously, this crystal was right in front of him and he just stood there. We are now stuck down here with a whirlwind as our only way out, but we can just exit the level from the pause menu and return. We pay money bags to ride an elevator down to the bottom of a volcano. We climb to the top of it using a series of ladders and seal it shut. This earns us the talisman by warping us to the NPC that hands it over. This NPC happens to be on a very high platform that we'll never be able to reach again, so we make sure to grab the gems here before falling off. There are several vases hanging from balloons in this area, and we even managed to hit one on the way down. We want to reach a high up bridge to start the final mission of the level, and on the PS1 version we were able to stand on top of the volcano after it had been sealed. But in Reignited we can't do that. However, we were able to take advantage of another weird ladder related bit of collision. The mission itself requires us to defeat all 12 enemies that are scattered all around the volcano area. The only way we can defeat those enemies is to spit a rock at them, and it's very intended that we use a flight power up to help us get around. The best rock to get safely without falling into the lava is this one, but this means we have to come back to this rock every time we need a new one. So we have to grab a rock, climb the volcano, fire it at an enemy, and do it all over again. If we happen to fall into the lava and die during this mission, we have to start the mission all over again. This is exactly what we had to do on the PS1 version as well, except on the PS1 version we could stand on top of the volcano. Not being able to do that makes this surprisingly more difficult. For starters, it makes it harder to even see where all the enemies are, and it makes it hard to land on any of the ledges in the area by jumping down to them. Once we've taken 10 of them down, the final 2 are both inside a lava tunnel. Without the flight power-up, we can't even see them, let alone spit a rock at them. One end of the lava tunnel is behind this ladder, so this is the closest we can get to it. The only way we can think to hit this enemy in that tunnel is to blindly jump backwards, spit the rock in midair, and then just hope that it hits. To get this to work, we climbed to the very top of the ladder, jumped backwards, and timed the spit just as the enemy was off screen. We also were then only just able to grab the ladder again at about the lowest point you possibly could. The last enemy is just inside the other end of the tunnel, and its entrance was just below this bridge. This one pretty much has to be the last one we kill, because if we miss it, we land directly in the lava and die. We line up a charge jump and nail the spit perfectly on the way down first time. Upon completing this mission, the game warps Spyro to the NPC so he can receive his reward, and this saves him from dying in the lava. All that's left is the last few gems that we missed out near the beginning of the level, but there's a reason we missed those gems the first time we passed them. We mentioned this in our Spyro 1 Reignited video, but there is a weird glitch in the Reignited trilogy. If the game has been running for 75 minutes, excluding time spent in menus or load times, then Spyro is suddenly able to jump ever so slightly higher than usual. Without that little extra boost, the charge jump that we need to perform to reach these last few gems would be impossible. We wanted to make sure we had been playing for over 75 minutes, which is why we saved this jump for last. It's still not easy though, but after several tries, we finally made it up there. That's 100% in Magma Cone. With that, we have played all 14 levels in the game so far. The next thing to do is fight the second boss, Gulp. but there's a door blocking the way, and the only way to open this door is to collect all 14 talismans, one at the end of each level. We only have 13 talismans because we weren't able to get the talisman from Breeze Harbor. Many hours were put into Breeze Harbor by several people in the community, but no method of getting off the very first ledge without gliding or using the whirlwind was found. This is the limit of what can be done in a glideless run of Spyro 2 Reignited. Unless we allow glitches. There is a way to skip this door, however, the glitch we're about to go over is only possible on the Nintendo Switch version of the game. You'll see why soon. The setup is the same as the level storage glitch in our Spyro 1 video. It's applied a bit differently this time though. We already mentioned that we can touch a level portal and pause the game on the same frame to both enter and exit that level at the same time. But due to most of Spyro 2's levels having an intro cutscene, the level storage glitch gets interrupted. However, if we spam the home button on the Switch console over and over during the initial load screens, the game can get very confused. Because the home screen suspends the game on the Switch, spamming it like this prevents some of the things from loading in during the load screens, like the floor. Falling into the Autumn Plains void like this causes the last level that we entered to load in. Since we used Skelos Badlands to set up level storage, that level is considered to be the last level we were in. Also, the Autumn Plains level assets are still loaded in as well, like doors and portals, etc. We want to keep Skelos Badlands loaded in. We do this by getting a checkpoint here at the nearest ferry. Now we need to death abuse in the nearby lava to reload that checkpoint, and next we fast travel to any level in the first homeworld. Doing so will keep those Autumn Plains assets loaded in as we travel. We then exit that level to get back into the homeworld itself, and then use a vortex to travel directly to Autumn Plains. We can't fast travel to Autumn Plains or that deloads its assets. Because the Autumn Plains assets were loaded in when we travel to the first homeworld, they stay loaded in, but then using the vortex deloads the first homeworld along with the Autumn Plains assets. This means that when we arrive in Autumn Plains, most of the level is here, but things like doors are not loaded in. This means that there is now no door blocking the Gulp boss fight anymore. We can now defeat Gulp as normal, as no gliding is required in this boss, and then travel to the third and final homeworld, Winter Tundra. The first thing we do here is learn the Headbash ability from Moneybags, so we can break open a few rocks for both gems and orbs. This is also the smallest homeworld in the game, so there's not a lot that's out of reach here. We can still get on top of this wall by climbing the steep steps and then jumping over to it. From there, it's easy to reach any part of Winter Tundra, so that's 100% completion here. Before moving on, we can travel back to a couple of previous levels and use the Headbash to earn some more gems and orbs. Those levels would be Fracture Hills and Shady Oasis. We escort the Alchemist, and then we help Hunter take out the Earth Shapers. That's 100% in Fracture Hills. We also break open this Headbash specific chest and rescue the hippos in the acid. That is 100% completion in Shady Oasis as well. Moving on to the first level of the final homeworld, Cloud Temple. We're tasked with defeating the Warlocks so the inhabitants can reclaim their wands. Once we do, they use them to open the way for us to make progress. Defeating the first one creates a bridge for us to cross, but over here we find a whirlwind that takes us to the roof of the building we're in. There's no other way to go, so if we don't get up there, we can't continue this level. As it happens though, there is a way up there, but it's not easy. First, we have to restart the level to respawn the first Warlock, which also means the bridge is gone too. Each segment of the bridge floats over the gap until we defeat the Warlock. So if we keep him alive, we can use these floating platforms. We charge to the left of the Warlock as soon as the level loads in. We jump over to the platform in the middle of the gap and then quickly start jumping along with the platform in the direction that it moves in. Since the platform is spinning the whole time, it's not easy to stay perched on it, but with practice we can ride the platform for a few seconds until we gain a bit of height. Once we're high up enough, we can charge jump over the flat side of the platform to just reach the other side of the gap. Would you believe that was the easy part? From this side, we can land on another platform and ride it in the same way until we get more height, which just allows us to charge jump to this part of the roof. From here, we try to jump up to the roof that the whirlwind would have brought us to, and even though we didn't quite make it, the fairy that's up there decided that we were just close enough to get the checkpoint. So after falling off the edge and dying, we respawn up on the roof. A bit further on, we defeated another warlock to get this statue out of our way, but this brings us to a huge gap that we cannot charge jump over, no matter how good our coyote time is. Once again, this is the only way to go, so if we don't get over here, we're stuck here. On the PS1 version, we could spit a rock all the way across the gap to hit the warlock on the other side. The cutscene of the NPC retrieving the wand actually warps Spyro over the gap and right next to the NPC, but in the Reignited version, if we take out the warlock at a distance, we do not get warped at all. We would need to actually get on the other side of that gap to trigger the cutscene this time. We tried something else instead. We respawn at the checkpoint to bring back the second warlock, including the statue that was blocking our way. We want to leave the warlock alive so the statue doesn't disappear. If we keep the warlock off camera, he won't fire spells at us. We stand to the side of this NPC about here and aggro the charging enemy. If we jump right as we get hit, we can get damage boosted up on top of this wall. From here, we can charge jump to the top of the statue, which gives us a bit more height. Next, we need to perform one of the most precise jumps in the run, and I'm pretty sure you need to have been playing for 75 minutes first. We need to jump from the highest point and then charge at the very apex in the perfect position to bonk into this part of the roof. If it's perfectly executed, Spyro will bounce back onto the roof. This is a lot more difficult than it looks, but once we're up here, it looks like we have a better chance of making this jump. But whereas we are slightly closer, even from all the way up here, we still barely can't make the jump to the other side. We'll have to cut our losses here at just 15% completion. We'll head over to Mystic Marsh next. There's an upper part and a lower part to this level. There are two ways of reaching the upper part, and one of them is a whirlwind. The other, more legal way is activating a spring jump power-up by defeating 20 enemies. The professor is in a bit of an awkward spot, but we can charge jump around this building to reach him. We can complete his trading mission once we have access to the upper part of the level, and there just so happens to be exactly 20 enemies in the bottom part of the level, if you include the enemies underwater. With that, we can spring jump up, and this gives us access to anywhere we need to go. The trading mission can be finished easily from here. This vase hanging from a balloon was a lot more awkward to reach in the original, but this time we can reach it from here just fine. The final and most difficult part of this level is retrieving the spark plugs from the thieves. There are 4 to catch in total, and some of them are more annoying than others. One of them just runs in circles. The one that runs through trees is probably the most difficult since there are some gaps during the chase. When the thief drops down to the lower trees, instead of following him directly, we carry on the wooden platform and then drop down on top of him. It's not long before we have 100% completion in Mystic Marsh. Our next level is Robotica Farms. A lot of this level is played casually, the vast majority of it actually. This is the level I always miss a green gem in since they blend in with the grass. You can ride the rocket in this level too, but it's not useful this time. The most difficult part of this level is reaching the platform with the supercharge power-up on it. A charge jump isn't quite good enough to reach it, but there's an easier way. If we charge towards the platform from the ground and then jump immediately after we stop charging, we can carry the charge momentum into a normal jump. This allows us to get up here and complete the supercharge mission. Why did they feel the need to put a rocket in this level anyway? The level already provides us with the supercharge power-up. Anyway, once we break the question mark jar for the final time, that is 100% completion in Robotica Farms. Now we enter Metropolis. Things go normal to start with. We can use the same charge into a normal jump to reach the ladder so we can blow up the bull. I hate not being able to stop on the ice. At the end of the level, there's actually a super flight and super flame power-up combo, and touching it makes Spyro fly automatically. It seemed like no matter how we touched the power-up, Spyro still used his wings in some way. But there is a way. If we jump near the power-up and charge down into the ground as we touch the power-up, Spyro doesn't fly. We do this from the back of the power-up so we don't run over the edge. But now that we have the power-up, we don't need to fly. We can hit all the flying saucers from the ledge that we're already on. We can also still shoot down all the vases hanging from balloons and break open the metal chests. What we can't do though is reach the roofs of the structures in this wide open area without the flight power-up. On the PS1 version, we were able to use a double jump to get out of bounds, then get under the ice where the bull was, and then use the ice for a proxy to get on top of the whole level. No such luck this time though. We have all the orbs at least though, so that's 95% completion in Metropolis. That brings us to the final boss, Ripto. He has 3 phases, and the first 2 phases are simple enough, but the third and final phase sees the arena sink into the lava. Spyro is then forced to take flight. And this final phase is a fight in the air. Even if we charge out of the sky right away, we would land in the lava and die. So that makes the final boss impossible. I'm getting deja vu from the PS1 version. Actually, speaking of the PS1 version, I want to correct something that I said about the final boss. For the same reason that we can't defeat Ripto in Reignited, we couldn't defeat Ripto in the PS1 version either, due to the forced flying. However, a glitch was discovered relatively recently. If you get the swim in air glitch in Winter Tundra and then enter the Ripto load trigger from a weird angle from out of bounds, something odd happens. For some reason, Spyro is then able to take flight and supercharge during the Ripto boss fight. It's almost like a level storage precursor. At first, it doesn't seem like this would help us defeat Ripto without our wings, but there's another weird property with this glitch. If you both jump and charge at the same time, Spyro can stay suspended in mid-air with continuous mid-air charges. This is very bizarre, but it does allow Spyro to stay suspended in the air without having to fly. Apparently this glitch only works on original PS1 hardware, so I'm unable to test this myself. But it does have me wondering, could you defeat Ripto by doing this charge in mid-air continuously all the way into the third phase of the fight? I know you can't normally breathe fire whilst charging, but maybe you could stop charging to breathe fire, then quickly carry on charging to stay suspended again, and then keep doing it that way. I'm not sure. The point is that this might have been a method to defeat Ripto on the PS1 version of this challenge. Back to Reignited though, once again we have reached the limit of what we can do in this run unless we allow more shenanigans. But before we get to any more glitches, I feel like it's worth showing this first. We're heading to the Speedway level of the third homeworld, Canyon Speedway. As we mentioned, Speedways force Spyro to fly right away. Charging out of the air seems to always land us in the water. Canyon Speedway is an exception though. If we charge to the left right away, we can land on solid ground, and then we can supercharge along this path. This allows us to destroy all 8 bikers without issue, which earns us 80 gems. If we break down how speedways work, there are always 4 groups of things that either need to be destroyed, enemies that need to be attacked, or arches that need to be flown through. Completing each of these 8 things earns us 80 gems each, but being able to complete all 32 things in a single attempt within the time limit earns us another 80 gems on top of that, putting each speedway's gem total at 400. This means that we can at least keep the 80 gems that we get for destroying all the bikers, but the rest of Canyon Speedway looks impossible without flying. There are birds flying over lava, rings over the lava, and goats in the mountains. We tried to get all of those without flying within the time limit, but it wasn't happening. If you still consider this to be a rule break, then feel free to just ignore these 80 gems. I just thought it was interesting. There's something else we can do. So far, we've only covered 3 of the 4 speedways in the game, and that last one is Icy Speedway. We did briefly mention the portal was out of reach. However, do you remember when we said that a homeworld's default spawn location is outside of a speedway portal? We used a glitch with the Glimmer portal to get warped to the speedway of the first homeworld, but since Glimmer is the only level without an intro cutscene, it's the only level we can do that with, unless we use the boss levels. Even though a boss level has an intro cutscene, the level itself doesn't start to load in until after the cutscene, which differs from normal levels as they load in during the cutscenes. Pausing on the same frame we touch the load trigger for Gulp's boss room and then choosing exit level allows us to get warped to a speedway during the cutscene. Since there are 2 speedways in the second homeworld, we need to hope that the game warps us to Icy Speedway. We can't see ourselves behind the cutscene though, but we can still hear the gameplay over the cutscene audio. We need to talk to Moneybags before the portal will be unlocked though. When we feel the controller vibrate, we know Spyro's feet has hit the floor. We hit L2 to center the camera, and then we walk up and a bit to the right to get in front of Moneybags. The conversation triggers automatically when we get close enough. If you listen carefully, you can hear both the cutscene audio and Moneybags talking to Spyro at the same time.
I would love to let you enter this speedway free of charge, Spyro. Love to. Unfortunately, the speedway rules require me to charge a small.
We just need to spam X at this point to confirm the purchase that unlocks the Icy Speedway portal, but if the cutscene ends, the game will softlock and our purchase won't have been saved. We need to blindly pause the game and then quit the game. Thankfully, pausing also pauses the cutscene. When we blindly find the quit option, the game saves our progress and returns us to the main menu. Resuming the save file continues the cutscene, oddly, but when it's finished, we have loaded in at the start of Autumn Plains. If we now look at the Icy Speedway Speedway portal, we can see that it's been unlocked, and Moneybags is gone. All we need to do now is perform that exact same glitch again, but instead of talking to Moneybags during the cutscene, we blindly enter Icy Speedway instead. We'll know we've gotten it right if we see a Spyro silhouette in the bottom right corner of the screen. When we load into Icy Speedway, we close the whole game down and run it again. Entering level portals also saves the game, so when we load back into the game, we're already in Icy Speedway. We pause and quit immediately to exit the speedway, and we have now reached the small island in the distance without having to glide there. All that for 8 more gems in Autumn Plains. Now that we know we can get warped to speedway portals, we can do the same thing to Metro Speedway, and from that portal, we can just get on top of the Autumn Plains wall. We get a good view of the distant platform from here that we can't reach, but the reason we're up here is to find the orb behind the destructible wall at the end of this path. Although we can now fast travel to Icy Speedway whenever we want, and just like in Canyon Speedway, we can make some progress there. Charging right away lands us on the ice, and from here we can use Supercharge to destroy the snowmobiles. We can also hit the paragliders if we climb up this high ledge, and we can also take out the skaters and go through all the arches. One of the arches is a bit awkward as it's high up, but if we stand here, we can just charge jump over to it. What we can't do is hit the 8 serpents in the water, as touching the water means starting again. This means that we can earn 240 gems here, which is 30% completion. If we want any more collectibles, then it's finally time to use level storage just like we did in the Spyro 1 video. The glitch setup is already fully explained in that video, but to recap, we pause the game on the same frame that we hit the load trigger for either the Gulp boss arena or the Ripto boss arena, then we select exit level from the pause menu, and this warps us to the Speedway portal during the cutscene. If we blindly enter the Speedway portal, fall into the water, press X to retry the speedway, and then press triangle to skip the cutscene immediately afterwards, we seemingly load into the boss fight as normal. However, if we death abuse, upon respawning, the game now thinks we're in a speedway at all times, regardless of what level we're actually in. We can then fast travel to any other level to carry the glitch over to that level. The glitch allows us to both fly and supercharge at all times, but since flying is against the rules, it's the supercharge that we want. Unfortunately, this also means that we have a 30-second time limit at all times, as that's part of being in a speedway. Letting it run out can mess up the game in some strange ways. Although this happened to me one time when I simply just tried to fast travel somewhere, so the glitch can be fairly unstable at the best of times. Once we get it successfully, we can revisit all the levels that we have yet to 100% complete and see if supercharging can help us make more progress. There are 2 more orbs left in Summer Forest. One can be reached with this balcony jump, which is now easy with supercharge. The second one is from Hunter after finishing his gliding tutorial, but there's an issue. We must speak to Hunter before each of his jumps before he gives us the orb at the end, and we only have 30 seconds to do this. If the orb animation is playing as the time runs out, the orb won't be added to our inventory, and it will no longer be obtainable. By the time I finally got to the final platform along with Hunter, we only had about 3 to 4 seconds remaining, which isn't enough. We were able to get the final 4 gems in the homeworld on this platform at least. After many failures, we came up with a better idea. So far, we have been emerging from the Idle Springs portal as it's the closest portal to where Hunter is standing. However, you'll notice that the 30-second timer starts even before we fully exit the portal, which wastes about 3 seconds every time. If we entered Summer Forest via the homeworld vortex instead, the timer doesn't start until we are in control. So here's how we did it. We exit the vortex from Autumn Plains, we hold square to supercharge, and mash L2 to center the camera. We jump to Hunter to trigger his dialogue, and from here, we need to be in position to trigger his next dialogue before he even gets there himself. This works until the platform at the top of the steps, as the dialogue trigger there loads in long before Hunter even gets there. We don't want to jump straight over there though, as we'll only sail right over the edge if we do. Superchargers cannot be stopped dead on the spot after all, and the platform is very small. We need to let Hunter jump over first and then time our jump just right so that we bonk into Hunter right as he lands. This keeps us on the platform and triggers the final dialogue as quick as possible. As soon as the orb animation is finished, we quickly open the menu before the timer runs out with only 0.4 seconds remaining, and then fast travel somewhere else just to trigger an autosave. That is 100% completion in Summer Forest. We can use Supercharge in Glimmer to reach the last remaining gems in the level. They're on higher ledges that we couldn't reach before without a whirlwind, but Supercharges get us right up there. It looked like we were able to use Supercharge to earn all 3 orbs that we had to skip, but unfortunately the time limit rears its head. We simply just don't have the time to complete any of them. The gem lamps in the cave seem to be the most feasible, but doing this in 30 seconds without flying is a stretch. The same applies to the gem lamps outside. Spitting rocks at the lizard takes far longer than 30 seconds as well, as we have to follow the NPC across the whole level. We thought about maybe hitting one lizard, then getting a checkpoint to save it, and then death abusing to restart the timer, but the only reliable method of dying in this level is waiting for this enemy to very slowly hit us 4 times. So we left Glimmer on 60% completion for now. Progress is progress. All other levels in Summer Forest have already been beaten 100%, so we go straight to the Autumn Plains homeworld. There are still some gems on the tallest most part of the roof, and we simply cannot get up there without a whirlwind. On the PS1 version, it was possible to climb this building with a series of double jumps and reach the roof, but in this version, you can't stand on those same parts of the roof, and the devs even went out of their way to add an invisible barrier right here. However, we can reach the small island that we were supposed to glide to. We get on top of the wall from near the Zephyr portal and supercharge jump right onto the island. That is 75 more gems, and the last orb, which bumps the Autumn Plains completion percentage to 95%. We couldn't fully beat Crystal Glacier, but unfortunately supercharging isn't going to help us with that. We still can't get all the Draclets, as 3 of them are suspended over the dangerous pink goo. We can supercharge into one of them, but we land straight into the goo right afterwards, so we'll never get all 3 of these Draclets, let alone the remaining 15 afterwards. Breeze Harbour is up next, and we can finally make some progress here. There are 2 directions we can take from the start. Either we stand on this pipe and super jump up to the platform we couldn't reach before, which is harder than it looks by the way, or we supercharge all the way to the end of the level by landing on this wing. The latter also isn't easy though, as there is an invisible wall most of the way around this wing, but we can just still land on it if we aim for the very left side of it. Either direction we take, the goal is to find a fairy for a checkpoint and then quickly death abuse to respawn at that checkpoint with the timer reset. We also want to be killing all enemies on the way, as we need 14 kills to use the spring jump power up. It's safer to kill all the enemies in an area, then get zapped again for another checkpoint, and then quickly death abuse to reset the timer and keep the kills before trying to move on. The same goes with destroying the mines with the cannons. We get a few of them, we get another checkpoint, and then we death abuse. If we ever let the timer run out, we are forced to start the level all over again. The gems on the orbs will stay collected, but the enemies respawn and mission progress will reset. We basically want to always know how to get back to a fairy and a bottomless pit at all times. Once we raise the ship's altitude by igniting its flames, we can also finally get the talisman from this level. Killing 14 enemies means finding both checkpoints in a single visit, as there aren't enough enemies next to just one of the checkpoints. Death abusing from the first fairy in the level is more awkward since it's not directly next to a pitfall, but eventually we do manage to get a total of 14 kills. With that, we can use the spring jump power up for the gems up top, but there's no way 30 seconds is enough time to complete the trolley minigame. There are a couple of metal chests on this level too. We're supposed to use the cannons to break them open, but there's a quicker way. After raising the ship at the end of the level, it's high up enough that we can supercharge jump from it and land on top of the tracks. From here, we're able to find both of the 2 metal chests and supercharge into them to break them open. That's 80% completion in Breeze Harbour. We return to Cloud Temples, and supercharge helps a lot here. We can clear the first gap with a super jump, and we can reach the first fairy with more super jumps. This fairy is the only one in the level, so the idea is to take out the closest warlock, open the statue door, go back to the fairy, get zapped again, and death abuse again. That way the door will stay open after we respawn. It's worth noting that accepting a mission from an NPC is also a checkpoint, but they can only be used once, since we can only accept a mission once per level visit. The NPC at the end of each level in the third homeworld doesn't give us a talisman, they just give us another orb. I was careless and I got this orb at the end of Cloud Temple right as the time limit ran out, which locked me out of getting that orb. But thankfully, if we leave this level and then get to the end of it again, the NPC will award us that orb again and it counts this time. This is when we realised that since the game's levels reset if you leave and re-enter them, you can always re-obtain the orbs in any level. The exception is when an NPC gives you an orb in any of the game's homeworlds, since you can never re-obtain those. We can also use super jumps to grab more gems on an island beyond the end of the level. The door doesn't open, but if we stand on this ramp, we can super jump our way around the door to grab all the gems up here. We got all the gems, but there are still 2 orbs we cannot get in this level though. One of them requires us to to follow a secret agent and the other requires us to ring 3 bells in the level, both of which take far longer than 30 seconds. That's 66% completion in Cloud Temple. That brings us back to Metropolis. We left this level on 95%, so there's not a lot left to get, just a few gems, but those gems happen to be some of the most difficult gems to obtain in this challenge. They're all in the large final part of the level, either on top of the buildings or on top of the prop planet rings. The issue is, the closest fairy to this final room is an elevator ride away. We can rush through the level to reach the fairies, but from the second fairy we need to rush to the final room and grab some gems in a very tight time limit. There's no quick way of death abusing in the final room either. Spyro bounces off the electrified surfaces 3 times before he dies, which is slow. And the whole room is surrounded by a big invisible force field, so we can't fall to our death either. Here are the routes we use to reach all the remaining gems, starting with the easiest. We headbash the first elevator right away to be taken to the large room. We supercharge the 2 cows on the left path, we turn around and supercharge to the high ledge, which is a tighter jump than it looks. From here we turn left and jump over to the lower planet's rings. It's difficult to stay on these rings with the supercharge due to how small they are, but it is just possible. We then jump on top of the planet itself for a bit more height, and super jump to the rings of the higher planet. Once again, it's hard to stay on the rings, but it can be done. Once we grab these gems, we have just enough time to fall down and death abuse in the electrified surface. The next few gems take even longer to reach, so there won't be any time to death abuse after reaching any gems from here on. That means that every failed attempt from now on forces us to restart the whole level. You might be wondering why we don't just accept the mission from the NPC in this room to get a checkpoint, but doing so triggers a cutscene showing the flying saucers. With no way to skip the cutscene, the timer runs out before we have a chance to death abuse after the checkpoint. After taking the first elevator, we need to race to the second one through this tunnel and ride it to the top. From the elevator, we need to quickly and precisely jump to this building, but make sure not to bonk into it or we'll fall off. Then we quickly jump to the smaller purple building on the right. Bonking into this one is required to stay on it. From here, we can reach the grassy ledge above for some more gems. Next time, we want to take the exact same route, but after the grassy ledge, we supercharge to the roof of the big building for more gems. The last remaining gems are in the metal chest on top of the tallest building in the very center of the room. We use the same route again to reach the big roof and turn around, and with a precise super jump, we charge straight through that chest with less than 2 seconds to spare. That's 100% completion in Metropolis. Once again, we have hit the limit on what 30-second level storage can do for us, but we're not done yet. Just like in our Spyro 1 video, we can take level storage one step further. If we perform the level storage glitch using a speedway that's already been complete, instead of being limited to 30 seconds, we get 10 minutes instead. Of course, this requires a pre-set up Spyro 2 save file that has not been following the no flying rules, so it's up to you if you think this is going too far. Back in Glimmer, we still don't have any of those 3 orbs, but now we can finish the mission where we spit the rocks at the lizards. The only issue with this mission was the time limit after all, and a super jump gets us on top of the ledge above the whirlwind. With our speed now, it's even possible to hit some of these lizards without spitting rocks at them. As for the gem lamps, having essentially no time limit is a huge help for the ones inside the cave. We mentioned that we'll never be able to reach the yellow lamp without gliding or flying, and we can't use our flame breath while charging. But if we climb the ladder, we can supercharge into the rock wall behind the lamp, bonk off it, and flame the lamp just as we start to fall down. The other lamps are fairly easy to reach by comparison, which means we now have 2 out of 3 orbs in Glimmer. The third orb is still an issue though. Of all the gem lamps outside, the green one is easily the most difficult to reach. We managed to find a way of lighting all the other gem lamps outside. It was slow going, but we did eventually manage to light each and every one. But it's the green one that's always the one we could never reach. We did something that could work in theory. If we stand on this small part of the structure, we can super jump into the wall and flame the green lamp as we fall. The issue is actually getting on that small part of the building in the first place. It's very precise, and I'm not convinced it's possible to land on it and stay on it after a super jump. Even if we could pull that off, all the gem lamps need to be lit in quick succession or they'll turn off again, so there's no chance of lighting them all in time. So that leaves Glimmer on 86% completion. We tried to use the 10-minute level storage to get all the Draculets in Crystal Glacier, but time wasn't really our issue here. We still can't get the 3 over the pink goo, but we can, however, finally collect all the gears while riding the trolley in Breeze Harbour. 10 minutes is more than enough to get this done, and that's 100% completion in Breeze Harbour. It was at this point I accidentally fast travelled to Icy Speedway, and entering the speedway during level storage is a strange experience. experience. The whole level is empty. No targets, no archways, nothing. Very eerie. Over in Cloud Temples, we can do a lot more. We can follow the secret agent to his hideout for an orb, and then we killed 21 enemies to activate the Ice Breath power-up. It's used to create ice block platforms, so we can reach the bells, but we don't need Ice Breath since we can use super jumps to get up there. We still had to activate the power-up first though, because we can't ring the bells otherwise, but that's when we found out that we also can't ring the bells with supercharge. Spyro just bonks into them. On the PS1, you could charge or Headbash near the bells to ring them, but that doesn't work either. However, there is a solution. There are some small purple enemies in this level that spit rocks at us. If we defeat them, they leave their rocks behind as they die. As long as we've left those rocks where we killed those enemies, they should still be there. After starting the mission, we grab a rock, use supercharge to reach the first bell, and spit a rock at the bell to ring it. We do the same thing with the second bell as there is another rock nearby, and we can reach the second bell from the first bell with a super jump. It's the third and final bell that's a bit more difficult. It's on the roof of the building, and it's intended that we use a whirlwind to get up there. So let's find another way. First things first, we grab a rock and make our way to the very end of the level near the exit portal. From here, we can super jump on top of the small circular wall in front of us and run around it to the right side. From here, we can jump over to the other side of the roof that we were trying to reach. The bell is still fairly high up, but if we aim in first person view, we can just clip the side of the bell with a rock. That earns us the last orb of the level, which means we have 100% completion in Cloud Temples. Now we have finally hit the limit of what level storage can do for us. At 82% completion overall, this looks like the end of the run, unless we unlock Super Flame. So in Spyro 2, if you complete the entire game 100%, you can unlock a permanent Super Flame power-up, and this power-up is then unlocked across all Spyro 2 save files. We just so happen to already have a 100% completed file of Spyro 2 prepared. So all we have to do is load that save, go to Dragon Shores, unlock this door, and touch the power-up. Now if we load our no gliding file, Spyro will still have a permanent Super Flame. And as you may have guessed, this makes lighting the remaining gem lamps in Glimmer trivial. So that's finally 100% completion in the first level of the game. Super Flame can also be used to defeat the 3 Draculets that we couldn't reach in Crystal Glacier. Along with Supercharge, getting all of them is also quite trivial. That's 100% completion here too. The only level we haven't been able to fully complete 100%, with the exception of speedways and boss fights, is the Autumn Plains homeworld. The last few gems are on top of the tallest roof, and we simply can never get there without a whirlwind. Speaking of speedways, if we remove level storage by rebooting the game, we can enter Icy Speedway with Super Flame. This allows us to play the speedway normally, and whereas it is still a bit of a challenge, it's entirely possible to beat this whole speedway in a single run without flying thanks to Super Flame. I suggest letting the snowmobiles come to you before hitting them with the Super Flame, so that the paragliders are all in the same place right afterwards. We can also hit all the serpents from land in first person view, and we still have enough time to get all the other targets too. This was a decent challenge, but once we've done this, we have all 400 gems in Icy Speedway without flying. This also unlocks Hunter's Wind paragliding mission for another orb. That's 100% completion in the Icy Speedway. We try the same thing with Cannon Speedway. We're able to hit all the bikers as usual and Super Flame all the goats too. We can even hit all the vultures if we spam the Super Flame from here. That earns us an extra 160 gems, which puts Canyon Speedway on a total of 240 gems, or 30% completion. And there we have it. So, can we beat Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage Reignited without gliding or flying? No, we can't. We can't defeat the final boss. I suppose we can still at least take pride in our overall completion percentage though. We have 86 out of 100% in the entire game. The only levels we couldn't beat 100% were 3 of the speedways, 1 homeworld, and the final boss fight. Considering we were able to 100% complete every regular level in the game, I'm quite happy with this run. If you know how we can improve upon this, then please let me know in a comment or on our Discord server. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and also enjoy other challenge runs just like this, then please subscribe subscribe. We're so close to 100,000 subs I can practically smell it. I need to give a big thank you to these fine people in the Spyro speedrun community, and also another big thank you to all of our biggest supporters. They are Ariana M, Emperor Prime, Evolve Pixel, Fister Knightley, Floop, Frysening, Gingy Ginge, Griffey, James Fraser, Jelly Hustinks, Justin Becker, Cola Aero, Corey Bolu Blanchette, Notarn, Owl OTL, Rocket Plod, Spectrum Z, The Ghost of Troubled Jow, Total Noob, Trickster Rickster, Vivi is Vicious, A Lazy Dragon, Cat Peasant, Dino1303, Dweegi, Emo Jack, Evolve Pixel, Finn Living with a Ghost, $40 Mouse, Hakey Joey 14, Ham Scoffer, Jesus Christ 00AD, John Fitz 49, Cami 7, Luna Isle, Mebby Man, Melphilis, Razgriz, Potoma 13, Spectrum Z90, Static Jokes, Talminoz, The Jammy Emperor, The Lonely Gumba, Tim Zero, Tor DS, Towster, True DK0, Username JP, Velvet Violetta, Vital Daffodil, Zenot Soul, Zesty496, A Lazy Dragon, Anthony Kermack, LED23, Jan Invencia Unraventur, Song of Shadows, and Wesley Austin. Thank you all very much. If you want to see this same challenge but with all the older Spyro games, then this is the playlist for you. It's linked on screen now. Or how about something completely different, like a playlist on Oddworld challenge runs? You don't see those every day. I'm gonna run out of Spyro games at this rate. Do I have to play the Legend of Spyro series?